So you've made the decision that you want to get started in exporting. What I need to review now with you is the resources and commitment that you require if you're going to take on that first step. And there are a few issues that I think we need to think about. Exporting doesn't come for free. You have to understand that it is an investment. It's a profitable investment. It's one that you will benefit from, but it does require effort. And I think we need to think about what those areas of commitment and resource requirements are. First of all, we should think about financial resources. Payment is clearly an issue, and I'll come to payment in a separate video later where I will focus on the issues around payment. But clearly, if you're dealing with export markets, there is a shipment time that you have to take into account. So working capital will be an issue for you. If it takes you a reasonable amount of time to produce your goods, from the time when you take the order to the time when you then produce the goods, ship them 6 weeks across the globe, and then receive payment, which might take another 60 or 90 days, you might be out of working capital for up to half a year. You need to make sure you're thinking about that and understanding the requirements. You need to think about financial resources in terms of foreign currencies. When you're dealing with just the UK, you only need to think about pound sterling. But around the world, there's something like 200 different major currencies. You might be dealing in dollars, you might be dealing in yen, euros, Indonesian rupiah, Singapore dollars, whatever it may be. You need to think about what the implications of that are and how you deal with foreign exchange differences. We'll come to that later. But I think what I do want to talk about are the people resources. Now, I've only ever done exporting all my life. And Harold Macmillan in the 1950s said, exporting is fun. And he was right. It is great fun. I've traveled to over 100 countries. I've had a ball doing my job, and I don't want to change a single minute of my life. But there are implications you need to think about. Language issues. I will do a separate video later on about language and cultural differences, but it is important to think about language. Do not be put off. All of these things can be resolved. Many countries you can get by in English. It isn't my number one recommendation, but certainly you can get by in English, and there are ways that you can deal with the language differences using translators, using interpreters. Be aware of it and make sure you take it into account when you're going overseas to visit. There will be issues around logistics as well. I've talked about the implications of sending products overseas. You need to think about how to get your product to market. I'll come to that later as well. But what about the product and service implications? There are resource issues here too. For example, and it's quite easy to understand this one, which is why I use it as an example. If you're dealing with electrical goods in this country, everything's 240 volts. Fine, no problems at all. You go to Europe, you've got to be 220 volts. You go to the USA, you've got to be 110 volts. You have to think about adapting your products and services to meet the local requirements. There will be a resource implication of that. Think about the different fashions and tastes. I was looking recently at Japan. We do a lot of work in Japan. And as a Stoke City supporter all my life, I'm disappointed to tell you that the colours of mourning in Japan are red and white. Not red and white stripes, thankfully, but you need to be aware of that. If you're dealing with certain products and you put a red and white colour scheme on it, probably not a good idea if you're trying to sell to Japan. You need to think about those. But what I really want to get over about resources and commitment is senior management or owners' commitment. You may be the sales manager, you may be somebody within the organisation that wants to get started in exporting. You need commitment, but the whole company needs to be committed to this, and particularly senior management. You can be the leader of the organisation, you can be a senior manager in the organisation, but overall you absolutely have to be committed to it, because if you're not committed to it 100%, you won't succeed. So in summary, there will be financial resource implications. Think about how you get paid. Think about foreign currencies. There will be people issues. But exporting is fun. I've had a ball. You will enjoy it. Think about your language skills. Think about the implications for your resources in terms of the product, how you adapt those products, how you adapt those services. But above all, make sure that those resources are aligned to your strategy, making sure that you then make a profit in what you do. And when you've done that, I'm sure that you'll have success.